Hey guys, welcome to another video review of one of Narin and Joe Dunaway's works of art. This one is called the Aboriginal. It came out a couple years ago, I think maybe I would like to say 2 years ago. And every time Narin puts out one of his predators, it's always sort of a big deal to the fans of his work like myself, because he does go through stretches where, for whatever reason, he doesn't quite put out any new work. I mean, I think he always has things sort of tumbling around in his brain. He's got things that he wants to do. He's given us little teases, but sometimes he just doesn't have the time. He's an artist. Sometimes I don't think maybe he feels the inclination. He takes breaks. He has contracts he does with bigger companies like XM Studios, which I'm sure he spent a lot of time working on their projects. He has other interests. He did a Hellboy, for instance, as well as an amazing Logan. And recently, I think he put out a couple of Guyver statues, models. And I don't have an interest in the Guyver. And so again, when he does put out a Predator piece, then it's a cause for a lot of excitement and celebration among those of us who collect his work. And the reason it does is because of the original designs. And there's some controversy to this. Well, maybe controversy is the wrong word. It's just preference. There are a lot of collectors who really only enjoy or like the original movie versions. So that would be the P1, the Jungle Hunter from the original Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and then to a somewhat lesser extent, the P2, the City Hunter from Predator 2 with Danny Glover, and then a couple of the hunters from the end of the movie, like the Elder and a few of the others. They're really cameos. So there are purists who really only enjoy the movie versions. But there are others like me who really appreciate sort of the imagination of a sculptor like Narin, because the world, if you just go by the movies, is a little bit small. There's only basically 2 real specimens to look at, if you don't count the Elder and a couple of other cameos at the end. Whereas here, Narin sort of, to let his imagination take hold, and he could just go wherever he wants with it. And I think some of his designs are so striking and so beautiful. I enjoy them every bit as much as the movie versions, if not a little bit more. And so for this particular release, he has decided to give us a Predator from down under, hence the Aboriginal. And while on the surface, you may think that this is just a completely silly idea, again, if done correctly, it's amazing. So let's start by just taking a look. Let's start moving him slowly in a circle, moving up and down. So the idea is this is a Predator from Australia, perhaps, inspired by the Australian Aboriginal culture. He's got a large boomerang resting on his right shoulder and a spear in the left. He's got his dagger, and then, of course, an alligator's severed head through that spear. This is one of my favorite pieces. They all are, right? I'm going to say that over and over again when I do these video reviews of Narin Dunaway combinations. But every one of them, again, is an amazing work of art in its own right. So in this case, what makes him so unique? Well, there's a lot going on. This, I believe, to this day is the only Aboriginal that Joe Dunaway has painted, which is pretty rare. Narin pieces are pretty popular, and Joe services an international clientele, and usually, he winds up doing a couple of versions of each of Narin's pieces. But for whatever reason, this is the only Aboriginal he's ever done. Let's start by just taking a look at the bottom. The base is reasonably simple. He decided to make it red stone. Again, I think a callback to the maybe Australian inspiration for this piece. There's no gunmetal armor. Again, there's a more primitive vibe to this Predator art design. His armor is all bone based, so you can take a look at the lovely bone guards right here, the shin guards. There's some nice quills that he put on the calves. And then of course, I would be remiss if I didn't look at this amazing alligator. This is worth the price of admission alone. He did an incredible job painting this. And then you can see, of course, the spear going right through the alligator. Look at the eyes, the teeth, the scales, the undersurface right here. And then, of course, the back up here. Just gorgeous. And the severed stump with some of the glistening blood and gore below. Okay? Then you move up and you have all of these trophies, a wealth of detail here around the belt. There's beads, there's bones. I mean, you could just get lost looking at this thing forever. Really, really nice. Look at the little feathers right there, all sculpted. These are all trophies. Half of a skull right there, multiple little skulls. These are very beautiful pieces of bone hanging off of the side. Here's the wrist guards, again, all bone. The thigh guards, bone as well. Here's his knife and its sheath. And then, of course, a shot of the back. All of this is a little bit mixed. So again, just amazing detail. This looks like real wood. It's wrapped, again, with cord, with these decorations sort of hang off of it. Here's the quills and the dreads. Take a look at the decorations there. Again, as with many of Narin's work, all the dreads are individually molded and cast, have to be individually painted and placed. So very, very beautiful, a ton of work. Close up of the boomerang, looks like wood, the tusks, and then of course, the head. Scarred. And again, the beautiful veining. That's a hallmark of a Joe Dunaway paint job. Take a look here. So the cool thing that Joe did with this is that he sort of gave this predator the coloration of a crocodile or a dinosaur. So you see how here the crocodile has a lot darker colors on the scales on the back facing the sun, but the soft underbelly is pretty light in color right here. And he gave a similar coloration to the predator that killed this giant crocodile. You'll see that the front is not heavily pigmented. You know, you got the spots, but not heavily pigmented. Almost a pale pinkish color. You see multiple scar tissue here across the chest and the head. Look at the beautiful vein work along the arms. There's that necklace right there. So the front part, again, the so-called underbelly, lighter in color, but then when you turn him around, look at how heavily pigmented he is. Dark green with a hint of yellow. He's almost scaly like a crocodile himself, which I find to be very appropriate and also ingenious, kind of reminding you there's almost like a kinship between the hunter and the hunted. And then of course, beautiful work with the dreads. Almost reminds you of an elder type of coloration that he put on the tips, a little bit pale gray. So again, a remarkable piece. I've seen various paint ups of this. There's not many of these. I don't know, maybe it wasn't that popular. Maybe the concept was a little bit too silly for some Predator collectors, but I love it. I think it's very unique, gives a great flavor, and that's why I continue to get excited with Narin's different visions. And of course, Joe just kills it every time he paints one of these things. So this thing has everything. It's got the pose, the dreads, the spotting, all the details around the trophies, an amazing severed crocodile as part of the base. It's got a boomerang. I mean, what more do you want? And again, just can't say enough about the detailed work in the painting of the back of this guy. Quills all over the place, the back, the feet, the shoulders, everywhere. Do not ask me how he shipped this in one piece. And then again, there's that subtle pink color. You can see again a little bit of veining that he'll just put a hint of underneath the surface. Once again, the Aboriginal, painted by Joe Dunaway, sculpted by Narin. Hope you enjoy that, and then I will follow up with a few minutes using Flash to showcase some other details. So this is now with Flash. Again, I prefer without it, but I like to show with and without. This shows different details, different textures. You can appreciate everything that he's done. I'm gonna try to get a little picture here of the bottom of the alligator or the crocodile, kind of hard. We can see the gore here, the stump. Here's the texture. Hopefully you can appreciate the color a little bit more, the greens, the light pinkish color. This is not too good, it's a little bit too, there it goes. Get rid of that glare a little bit. There's like this magical distance where you get the most detail but the least amount of glare. So just try to find that sweet spot. There goes. Here's a nice picture of the paint of the front, the scar tissue. It is there. So again, you're gonna see a lot more detail with the flash, the bright lights. Look at that. To see all the little dust right here. Yeah, there's all dust. Here's the back. All those quills. And there you go. So I hope you enjoyed that, both without flash to show the contrast, and then with flash to showcase some of the details. Until next time, take care.